Grace, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Absolutely, Grace. So let's talk about why you want to become an author and how your new book's going to come out soon. But I wanted to kind of know about the aspirations of writing.
Yeah, so it basically began when I was a little girl. I have always loved to write. I really started getting into writing some stories in high school. Whether the plot was coherent or not is debatable, but as I kept writing, especially into college, I began to experience a great joy in writing, particularly as the more I improved my stories, my characters, figuring out what I wanted to do. And that has inspired me to want to pursue becoming an author.
Exactly. And wow. And what type of genres do you like to read?
So mainly, I love fantasy. I have read several of the classics as well when I was in college. I've enjoyed especially Southern authors such as William Faulkner. I read Light in August in school. I also like some of the more Gothic writing styles as well. I read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. There was one Gothic style book called Rebecca that I absolutely loved in one of my literature classes. So
Okay.
I enjoy a great variety of books.
What was your college major?
I was actually a major in both English and psychology. So I got to experience a lot of different forms of writing. I took a creative writing class, I took a poetry class. There were all kinds of different opportunities for me to grow.
And I think what's really interesting, and as an English major, you're diving into writing is a little different than other people, right?
Yeah, a little bit, especially if you focused a lot on literary analysis, you begin to analyze your own work. A big part of my style of literary analysis is that the book is often an extent of the author. So, normally, whenever you look at a book, it is typically about something that an author is experiencing personally, or maybe something historically relevant that this author is going through. And you can see those themes and patterns inside of the author's story.
Absolutely. And so you studied that. When you studied that, you saw what types of styles you like.
Yes, I did. I especially enjoyed reading authors who had a more flowery style for their writing, lots of descriptions, character focused writing, especially appealed to me, which kind of ties into my psychology major as well. I've always been drawn to more character driven stories, character driven plots.
Yeah. So character driven plots. You want something that, so define what you believe is character driven.
Yes. So when I say character driven, I am referring to a story that focuses mainly on the characters and their personal development. It could be emotional development, it could be some sort of moral dilemma that they are struggling with. It's basically about personal growth for me. How does this character change over time? What do they learn? What's their goal? How do those goals change? That's always interested me as an author.
Okay. And so an example would be specifically enough seeing a character going from one series to the next series to the next series of a book.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like seeing that character develop in book one versus book five, and the how that character kind of goes through a process and learns throughout.
Yes, exactly. And it's very interesting because you might have in the first book, this character has a particular arc that he or she goes through. And then in the fifth book, there may be a completely different arc. But the main focus is that the character is constantly growing, they're learning something new. I essentially like it when the characters feel real. These are actual people who are going through things and who are learning.
Right, exactly. And that's where the challenge is a writer comes, right? And is my how is my character developing throughout the series?
Yes, yes, exactly. Especially, I know whenever I'm writing a story, I have to sit down and I have to think about the character. I start with who is this character? What's their goals? What drives them? What kind of emotional changes are going to happen throughout the story? How would they react to certain things? And sometimes you find that the plot that you want to write is not conducive to the character. So you have to go back and think about it from that standpoint of what would this character do and how do we get here based off of what this character does. I'm very much about them being themselves.
Being themselves. So when you write your characters, are they based on people you know?
Somewhat, you can see some traits in them. I especially tend to lean towards my characters having certain traits that I have, which is actually how I develop certain struggles that they have. If I've gone something, it's so much easier to write what I know just through the lens of this character rather than looking at something that I might not have much experience on. I would need to do more research. And some do, in fact, come from people that I know, certain traits in other characters as well, and even in main characters.
Exactly, because you just never know uh, where that character is developing and growing. You are going to be focusing your writing on murder mystery. Why?
Yes. So mainly it's because of the psychological aspect of it all. So my book is both a murder mystery and a psychological thriller. My character is the main focus of this book. His psychological motivations. What is the killer's psychological motivations? What makes these characters tick, and how are they going to interact with each other? And it allows you to look at these big moral dilemmas. It allows you to explore many different themes. And it can also help you connect with other people, especially with your readers, because readers might see what this character is going through and they might be able to say, I relate to that. I can completely understand what this character is going through. And in turn, based on how relatable this character is, especially if they go through something and then they reach the other side, it could help somebody who is in that same struggle learn potentially how they might be able to get through what they're going through.
So let's talk about the difference between a psychological thriller and a murder mystery.
Yes. So when I think of a murder mystery, I think of a classic whodunit style writing where you have multiple suspects. You're trying to figure out who the killer is all throughout the book, and that's the main focus. And that is incredible. It's very entertaining. The reader can get involved. A psychological thriller is more focused on what is going on inside of each of the characters' minds. So it's more about the mental background of these characters, their emotions, and how they're responding to these different things. You can see psychological games involved or psychological warfare. Essentially, a psychological thriller versus a murder mystery would be a murder mystery is slightly more external, and a psychological thriller is more internal. And when you have a mix of the two, you kind of get both at the same time.
It sounds like it because you're going to get from both at the same time. One person's going one place, the other person is going the other. You're seeing that whole process delve into things. I don't want to ever give away the book at this point where we get closer and closer. We definitely want to maybe dive into some of the characters, but I really want to dive into who you are as a writer and looking at things. So you talked about murder mystery and psychological thriller. What's the difference with a serial killer type book?
Okay, so a serial killer type book for me focuses mainly on the serial killer and their motivations to kill. So, in terms of psychology, it tends to be what gets a person to this point where they are doing these horrific things. So, you have to think about things such as emotional background, environment, even genetic influences in certain cases. And all of this ties into making your character real and believable in terms of a serial killer type story. Some stories do have serial killers in them, but tend to focus less on the serial killer and more on the law enforcement side, which is what is occurring in my series, or not series, but my standalone book that I'm writing, or that
Only a standalone? It's not going to be a series?
no, this one's not going to be a series thus far. This is more of a standalone book. Now, I do have a series planned, but that will be in the future.
And you keep just wanting to roll through books, right? There's no stopping you.
Oh yeah, I am going to keep writing books as long as I am allowed to keep writing. I'm gonna write.
Okay. I think that what do you hope your audience is able to get as a writer for when they read your books?
I'm hoping for the audience to be able to connect with these characters in a meaningful way. Maybe even to find some relatability in these characters. If I can help someone through my writing, then I will have succeeded in my goal as an author. My main goal is to present these truths through these characters to provide some form of help.
Okay. All right. Soon the website's gonna be up. We'll be telling people very, very soon. Your social media accounts will be going, and you're going to be also giving a kind of samples of your writing by writing some blog posts and writing some short stories. Are you excited about that?
Yes, I am. I'm very excited.
Because people then could see the sample of your writing even before the book comes out. So we appreciate it, Grace. Thanks again.